promptings of the Holy Spirit. Help me, Lord. And so I'm saying that God gives us the advantage so that we always win, that we always triumph, that we always have more than enough, that we always have abundance. If you embrace the fact you always win, please join me in giving God another hand clap of praise. We always win. So here's the point. So one of the greatest advantages that belongs to believers is to always know God's will, to always fulfill God's will, and to always walk in his will. At some point, we cannot continue to always be trying to figure this thing out, because Holy Spirit is willing to allow us to direct us down that right path if we just surrender and succumb and submit to him. My favorite verse in the whole Bible is right here from John 4:34. The disciples had gone to get something to eat after Jesus already ministered to that woman. You know, this is in chapter 4. It's that the Samaritan woman was at the well. And you know the story very well. First of all, back in that time, women could not talk to men without the husband being around. And in the morning time, and so also the women would go to get water from the well first thing in the morning. Well, somewhere around midday, when Jesus was out there was a woman got there getting some water. And so, and then a conversation started occurring. And then Jesus said, go and get your husband. And then she said she had been in this day, I ain't got now. And he said, you got that right. You had 5 already, and you're shacking right now. And then she went back and said, come see a man who told me everything I'd ever done. So I did. So then the disciples were there, and they came back and said, we're about to go down and get a 2-piece over here from Wendy's. You want some meat? And Jesus says, no, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me and to finish his work. The only thing that gives me nourishment, what gives me sustenance, what keeps me going, is to do the will of him that sent me and to finish his work. What God was saying, what was Jesus saying here? That I am going to show you believers that are still coming with me right now, disciples there, and those generations yet unborn, how you can know God's will, fulfill God's will, and walk in God's will. That has to be what drives us. That has to be what motivates us. Now here's the point. Read this with me, please. You cannot fulfill God's purposes for your life while focusing on your own plans. Here's what we have done. Now for real, it's just us. If you know what we have done, we have decided what we wanted and say, God, I want this, I want her, I want him in Jesus' name. Like I was just going like that, I gotta make him do it. Instead of asking God, what is your will? What's your perfect will in this situation? Some of us have gone on dates. God didn't tell us to go on. Let me see it. So we've got to find out what God's will. We've taken jobs God didn't tell us to take. We've said yes when we should have said no. And said no when we should have said yes. And said, I'm going to get back with you while I talk to you. Instead of making decisions, we've been making these decisions off emotions. I wish you would ask me something. Instead of saying, I'm going to trust the Holy Spirit to always guide and to always lead and to always prompt instead. As long as we are focusing on our purpose and our will, we are not able to fulfill the perfect will of God. So I love this right here. So I'm telling you right here, this is for all of us right here. Read this one. Stop talking yourself out of things God has called you to do. I'm telling you, Christians nowadays can talk ourselves out of anything. We know, here's the point, what we keep on doing. God, if you want, you know what God told you. God, if you want me to do, if you want me, you know or clear what God said to do. So we keep on being like Gideon in Judges chapter 6. Gideon, God told Gideon to go and fight against the mighty Midianite army. And Gideon knew it was from the Lord. And what Gideon did, like some of us, Gideon said, I told you before, the story of scripture. He said, I'm going to get some wool. I'm going to get some wool here. I'm going to get some fleece here. And I'm going to put this wool on the ground. And if it's you, God, telling me to go fight, I want the wool to be wet and all around the ground to be dry. Next morning, wool wet, ground dry. What Gideon do? He said, I'm not really sure that's you. No, remember Shalom. He said, now I want you to go back. I want you to at this point, let this be dry and all the ground wet. Next day, Feast was dry, ground wet, and Gideon had no more options at that point but to go back in and do what God told him to do. And what I'm offering right now, Gideon had to do that because, first of all, that was just a lack of faith. But he didn't have the Holy Spirit living in him. He didn't have the Holy Spirit for him. He didn't have the Holy Spirit around him. And now believers are doing the same thing. God, if you want me to get up and go to work, let it be snowing in July. Well, it's not snowing, I ought to stay in bed. Now, at that point, the Holy Spirit directs us. So whenever we go back and start playing these little negotiation games, no, God said, no. I gave you certainty. I gave you clarity. I gave you all the assurance you need living inside of you right now to always know my will. So you can keep on playing this game if you want to, but you can know my will if you surrender and succumb and submit to the perfect and the promptings of the will of God. Too often, stop talking to yourself out of doing what God called you, because we can always find somebody we thought that was better or more talented or more prepared than us. Amen. Now here's the point. I got to take it. See, God does not always call the equipped. He equips those he calls. Oh, I'm about to preach it. I said, God, you don't have to go in here and already have everything in place and everything on your wall just hanging so meticulously. God says, I'm going to take you where you are. And I'm the one who called you. And I'm the one who chose you. And I'm the one who created you. And now when you have the advantage through me, you can start doing things you couldn't do by yourself if you just trust me and rely on me and stop talking yourself out of doing what God called you to do. God chose you to do this. And if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it like you but do for you. That God is the one, and we keep talking, and I'm telling you, Moses did a good job of that. God said, you go tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Moses said, you know they don't like me. They got it. I'm on the mafia hit list in Egypt. And you want me to go back there? And so, then here's Moses. And now, furthermore, it can't be me, because I can't even speak. I can't even speak well. I don't have the eloquence. And God said, I'll tell you what, open up your mouth. I'll speak through you. Give me your hands. I'll work through you. And that's all God's asking right now from 2 Corinthians 8:12. He says, all that needs to be is a willing mind. Are you willing to go where God told you to go? Are you willing to do what God told you to do? Are you willing to say what God told you to say? Are you willing to stand when God said to stand? At that point, stop talking yourself. Because I'm telling you right now, that your breakthrough is on the other side of doing what God called you to do. I said the deliverance is on the other side of doing what God called you. When you're going back and and asking somebody to forgive you who did you wrong, it's not for them, it's for you. When you go back and try to make things right with somebody who made things wrong with you, it's not for them, it's for you. Our breaking, our blessing, our breakthrough, and the barriers are removed on the other side of doing what God called us to do. So here's some advantage. So say it with me 3 times. We have the advantage. We have the advantage. We have the advantage. Now personalize it one time with me. Say it together. I have the advantage. If you know you have the advantage, please join me in giving God one more hand clap of praise in this day. I have the advantage. So we have Holy Spirit advantage. If this month is about anything, it's about saying that God has equipped and exalted and empowered us to always have the advantage. Even if we don't even know how it's going to work out, we know it has already worked out by the power of God because we already have the advantage. We're always ahead and not behind. We're always on top and not beneath because we have Holy Spirit advantage. So here's the question, man. So when will believers experience the advantage Holy Spirit gives us? Here we go again. When we have what? Submitted, and also what? Surrendered, and also what? Succumbed to the promptings of the Holy Spirit. Now here's what happens. This is how we know when we have not submitted and succumbed and surrendered to God's life, to the Holy Spirit. When we continue, I hope this visual we've been going over every Sunday is indelibly imprinted in your mind. Because whenever we have fear and guilt and discontentment, it means that we have chosen to make the decisions of our lives and be on the throne of our lives, and we consult Holy Spirit and then we get around to it. That we think we know more. We think we don't need a team. We think we can be in the White House and have to consult. So that we think we are the ones that have all the answers. And so we only consult Holy Spirit when we feel like it. Instead of saying, no, if I really want to know his will, if I really want to fulfill God's will, if I really want to walk his will, I have to have Holy Spirit sit on the throne. And I have to dethrone myself. I got to have a coup on myself so I cannot be on the throne anymore and allow Holy Spirit. And as a result, I now have peace and love and joy and abundance to experience as well. So the Holy Spirit lives through us. So spiritual principle number one, I want to talk about and share. So specifically, what does Holy Spirit do for believers? And I want to talk about one point now. First of all, we know Holy Spirit does a wonderful job picking us up when we're down. Anybody ever been down before? Has anybody ever been down? Holy Spirit is the one that picks us up. Doesn't matter how we got down. Holy Spirit is always there to pick us up. He is there as a consoler. He's there as a helper. He's there as an intercessor. He's there as an advocate. He's there as our strengthener. He's interceding for us as well. But this is what I want to talk about. So this idea about what he does for us. Read this with me, please. Holy Spirit prompts believers. That's this whole section is about right now. Holy Spirit prompts believers. Holy Spirit prompts believers. Last week we spent some time talking about Holy Spirit repairs for us and some other things. But I only want to focus on this one today. Because we talk about, again, how many want to know God's will, fulfill God's will, do God's will? Amen. It's by allowing Holy Spirit to prompt us. And that only occurs when we surrender, submit, and also succumb to the promptings. So prompted by God. So I want you to read this verse with me. This has become, for me, there are many of the verses that have been life-changing for me have occurred in the book of Romans. And I wanted to share this on a little quick note here. There are sometimes people will come to you, or you may ask yourself, you make this decision, you're just going to read the Bible, especially January, like December 31st. All next year, I'm just going to read the Bible. I'm going to go through this Bible in a year. Well, first of all, going through the Bible in a year will get you more confused than anything else. So it may have sold something. So I'm saying, if somebody is new in the Word, or if we want to start, I would offer you start in the book of Romans. Don't start in Genesis. That's what I plan. I'm going to start in Genesis. And praise the Lord, by the time the end of the year, I'm going to read all the way to Revelation. I'm saying somewhere around Leviticus, when they start talking about you're going to have tattoos and you can't do all these other things, folks will check out. So the idea was, we started in Romans, because Romans is written to the Gentiles, us, to let us know we now have freedom in Christ. And now we know that we have abundance through the Lord. And now I can go back and read the law because I know I'm not under the law then. But see, if you start reading Genesis, then all of a sudden there's more confusion that comes in. Like, for example, over in 1 Samuel chapter 16, it says after David had defeated Goliath, and at that point that David was in the household of Saul, and it said that an evil spirit from God came upon Saul. That's what it says. You know, Brother Lewis, you know some preaching in it, you get into that. So the idea was, so if you're not careful, you can be up here and you get back in the Old Testament like evil spirit coming from God that went upon. So now here's the point. In the Old Testament, they had no concept of the devil. So they thought everything came from God, good and bad. So they walked in the light they had. So this is what we talked about before. So in the Old Testament, they had starlight. When Jesus was here, we have at that point moonlight. And now we walk in sunlight. Which one has more light? Sunlight. So if you're now walking in sunlight and trying to understand what folk are doing back over here in starlight, that's going to be nothing but confusion. And put it another way. If you now are trying to go back and type something on Word, but you decide you're going to try to find a typewriter, there's something wrong. You can't find one unless you go to Smithsonian. So the idea is in the wrong dispensation. We now have more light than those in the Old Testament had. So why are we going to try to squeeze all our light into the limited light they had? Now, praise God, they walked in the light they had. Praise God for that. David said, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He walked in the light he had, but they only had starlight. When Jesus was on earth, they had moonlight, and now we walk in sunlight. So the book of Romans helps us understand the sunlight we walk in. So now when we know we have sunlight, I can read the Old Testament Not trying to live like that, but to appreciate how they continue to be faithful in the midst of not having that life.